check out Jeff's piece, the quarterback head coach duos, the top ones in football. We're going to get through that list here in just a second. 5:32 on a Wednesday. All right, let's bring Jeff into the conversation now. That list is up right now. It is the main story on the home page over at CBS Sports. Who are the top 10 quarterback coach duos in 2021? Now, Jeff is here, and you can kind of tell everybody, Jeff, the criteria for this list. There's going to be certain duos that did not make your list.
Well, yeah, for example, I mean, from a local flavor, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni just don't qualify. Sirianni's a first-year head coach, and Jalen Hurts is a first-year starting quarterback. They never played together, so obviously they're not going to count. But I use more of a Sean McVay or a Sean Payton type scenario because Sean McVay's got a new quarterback with Matthew Stafford. Now, Sean McVay is arguably a top 10 head coach in the league, but he's never coached Matthew Stafford in a regular season game. I suspect they'll likely be on this list next year, but going into 2021, they're just not eligible. Sean Payton's got a new quarterback. Same difference. Like, he's had Taysom Hill for 4 games, but we don't even know if Taysom Hill's going to be the starting quarterback.
Right.
So he was ineligible. So it was established starting quarterbacks and starting head coaches that they've been together at least a year.
All right, so that's the criteria there from Jeff. Let's take a look at the 10 on the list. So far, where has been the – all right, so let's do this. Let's look at the rankings from 10 down. Number 10, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan. So I would imagine that one's getting a lot of traction.
Yeah, and honestly, if you look at the competition they would have faced, it makes sense to put them in there, and that's what I did. My finalists were for that 10th spot: Garoppolo, Shanahan, McCarthy, Prescott, Kingsbury, Murray, and Kirk Cousins, Mike Zimmer. Kirk Cousins, Mike Zimmer have not been to a Super Bowl. Kirk Cousins did not go to the NFC Championship game. Mike Zimmer has. So they didn't have the accomplishments Garoppolo and Shanahan had. They were the barometer, so they're out. McCarthy and Prescott. McCarthy obviously has a Super Bowl, but him and Dak Prescott have only been together 6 games. I don't think those 6 games are enough. And you could honestly say, and Will Brinson from CBS Sports pointed this out to me when I was on the Pick 6 podcast earlier today. Yeah, Dallas was this, but they could have easily been 0-4, 0-5 with those two. And I said, that's a very good point. So, they were out. And then it came down to, well, what about Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray? I loved the two as a quarterback coach duo. I thought that I'd actually had them in this list this year. But they did not make the playoffs last year. The Cardinals faded down the stretch. Murray was really good. Kingsbury was controversial. Both of them combined have a losing record. I don't think that's a reflection on them per se. I just think they need more of a body of work. So Garoppolo and Shanahan, they got number 10 just based on what they did last year. They were only 3-3, but the 49ers are 3-7 without Garoppolo. And they were really good in 2019 when they made the Super Bowl.
Right.
Making the Super Bowl is a big deal.
I was going to say, yeah, so if you're going back to what they did the year before, yeah, they had a very good run together. Garoppolo and Shanahan, number 10. Number 9, another interesting one, Baker Mayfield, Kevin Stefanski, only 1 year together.
Yeah, and they deserve to be on this list just based on – I looked at it this way, Mike. The Cleveland Browns never won 11 games since they were reinvented as a franchise in 1999. They never won a playoff game since 1995. They did that. They haven't won a road playoff game since 1969. They did that against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Mayfield was tremendous in that game. Now, Stefanski didn't coach in that game, but Stefanski did get them there. We have to remember that. This Cleveland team was expected to win based on their point differential, 7.2 games. They won 11. Do the math. Yep. So, those two deserve to be in the top 10.
Let's take a look at the rest of this list. I'll tell you if I agree or not. Number 8, we've got Ben Roethlisberger, Mike Tomlin. Now, obviously, these two guys together have been fantastic. Ben Roethlisberger is going to be 39 years old, so this is obviously, well, not obviously, Ben could still have a good year. He had a good year last year, not his best, but Roethlisberger, Tomlin deserve to be on this list, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And one of my criteria was Super Bowls do count, and they have one together. And is this duo based on reputation? Yeah, it is. I mean, the Steelers have only been 3-6 in the playoffs since they went to the Super Bowl a couple years in 2011. They've been more known for their December and January collapses than anything else. But still, though, Tomlin has never had a losing season as a head coach, and he's been a head coach since 2007. He is tied for the most wins with Don Shula for head coaches through their first 14 seasons at 145. That's pretty impressive. And Ben Roethlisberger, we know what he can do. He threw for 5,000 yards in a season before. He has 2 Super Bowl rings, and the Steelers are good every year. And I don't see Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Tomlin just bottoming out and going 5-12 or 6-11 this year. I just don't see it. And this is based on more of 2020, but Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Tomlin, they were pretty good last year.
All right, number 7. Let's go now to the next one. Yes, I agree. This one's going to be interesting. Ryan Tannehill, Mike Vrabel. Tannehill, we talked about him the other day when we did the quarterback list in terms of I didn't think that he got enough respect, and here he is at number 7 on your list.
Yeah, this is where it got difficult because it goes, okay, where do we rank these next couple guys? And, Tannehill and Vrabel, they've been to an AFC Championship game together, and the Titans have had an amazing offense since Mike Vrabel decided to bench Marcus Mariota and make Ryan Tannehill the starter. And Tennessee has benefited tremendously. They went to an AFC Championship game. Last year they were a really good football team. Derrick Henry had 2,000 yards rushing, and Tannehill the last 2 years, if you look at all the stats, he's pretty much a top 5 quarterback. He's been very good. He's among the league leaders in passer rating, 50-yard passes. Titans have had an amazing offense, and it's funny. I actually thought Tennessee was going to make a deeper playoff run than what they did last year. They ended up losing to Baltimore, so that's why they were only at number 7. It's a small sample size, but those two have done a lot in a year and a half together.
Yep, I think this one's going to be interesting because you're going to have Julio Jones now and A.J. Brown and, of course, the running game there. We'll see if Tannehill's numbers, 3,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, and just 7 interceptions last year. Number 6, Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, and, of course, Allen has been shooting up everybody's rankings.
Josh Allen has been tremendous. I mean, I put out a stat. I forgot what it was. I think he was like the only quarterback in NFL history to complete like 67% of his passes for 500 yards and throw for 35 plus touchdowns and run for 7 plus touchdowns in a season. That's just how good Josh Allen was. And you got to give Sean McDermott and Brian Daboll credit for his development. And the Bills went to the AFC Championship game last year. They did not have a good run defense. Their defense wasn't as good as it was in years past. They had to rely on Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs to carry that offense. They had not have a good running game last year, and they still went 13-3. They went to the AFC Championship game. Josh Allen had a tremendous year. This could be the best year of his career, and I still think Josh Allen has a lot to do. I don't think this is a one-year wonder. I think those two are going to move up this list as we go forward.
It feels like it's trending in that direction anyway. All right, number 5, Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, obviously was a former MVP of the league.
Yeah, and this one was tough for me because Allen and McDermott beat them last year in the playoffs. And I said on the Pick 6 podcast, too, I did not think Baltimore was going to beat Buffalo going into that playoff game. Winning in Buffalo in the playoffs is hard, and we haven't really known that because the Bills haven't really hosted home playoff games until last year. So the Bills, look, they're really good, but you can't deny what Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh have done in such a short period of time. Jackson is 30-7 as a starter. He is the quickest starting quarterback ever to reach 30 wins in terms of games played. That's incredible in and of itself. He has an MVP award, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He kind of slipped from amazingly great to very good last year, and everybody thought he was on the decline. No, it was just he kind of backed into the meeting a little bit. And John Harbaugh, we know what he did. He has the most road playoff wins in NFL history with 8, has a Super Bowl. Yeah, him and Lamar Jackson together only have 1 playoff win, but that shouldn't be a deterrent toward what both of these two have done. John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson definitely deserve to be in the top 5.
All right, number 4, we got Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. This one's an easy one.
Yeah, this one was reputation and success. I mean, Seattle won 12 games for the first time in 5 years last year, and I know they bowed out in the wild card round. That's unfortunate for them, but I've said this before. I don't know if they lose to the Rams if Seattle has a full capacity of people at that game. They didn't have anybody in that home playoff loss last year. And Seattle did fade down the stretch, but Russell Wilson never had an MVP vote, still had his best year last year. 40 touchdown passes, just absolutely incredible through 9 years in Seattle. Has a Super Bowl, should have 2. Pete Carroll, same thing, has a Super Bowl, should have 2. Seattle is always at the top of the NFC West. It's hard to bet against Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. Last year I had them at 3. This year they fell to 4. Still, though, that's still pretty high. I mean, those two are pretty much a guaranteed 10 wins.
All right, let's go to number 3, which is kind of interesting. Will they even be together? Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, number 3.
And, I said that to myself. Well, should I put these two together? Well, right now they are together. And the results are pretty good. 2 NFC Championship games, 26-6. Aaron Rodgers has won an MVP. And look, if I'm going to boast about Lamar Jackson's MVP, I got to boast about Aaron Rodgers' MVP. And in the 2 years he's had Matt LaFleur, 71 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions. And Aaron Rodgers had one of the greatest statistical seasons for a quarterback ever. And it doesn't get talked about enough because we take him for granted because he's Aaron Rodgers. And look, there have only been 2 teams that have reached the that reached their conference championship game in each of the last 2 years: the Chiefs and the Packers. So number 3, it's based on their level of success. The Chiefs are the only team to win more games than the Packers in the last 2 years.
Yep, and let's stop with that real quick and get your thoughts as we're less than 2 weeks away from training camp. Aaron Rodgers going to be there, yay or nay?
I say yes, he'll be there.
Okay, all right. Very definitive on that. All right, let's go to number 2. Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid. All right, explain.
Well, Chiefs fans weren't as upset over this as I thought they'd be. I think because they know I'm a big Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid supporter. I definitely will. I'll say this of Andy Reid. I'll argue he's a better coach than Bill Belichick till the cows come home. So I thought this was fair for them. And, if we're looking at body of work, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid should be number 1. I mean, look at what they've done 3 years ago. 3 conference championship games, a Super Bowl, an MVP, most wins in the league. Basically the dynamic duo. I don't think those two are going to be out of the top 2 anytime soon. That's just how good they've been together. And Mahomes just keeps getting better and better. I think Reid has been astonishing with Mahomes and what he's been able to do. Finally got a Super Bowl last year. I mean, really the only quarterback they have lost to in the postseason is Tom Brady. They are 6-2 in the postseason. Both losses are to Brady. And the last football game we saw play was Super Bowl 55, and we saw what happened. 54 or 55. I don't even remember what Super Bowl we're in anymore. The last game 55. We saw was the Super Bowl, and they got destroyed. They got clobbered. So that's not their fault. Honestly, the offensive line of the Chiefs was decimated. The Chiefs were banged up. It played right in the Tampa Bay's pass rush, but still, though, it's hard to put them ahead of a certain duo that beat them that bad in the Super Bowl, and seems to be their only kryptonite, honestly.
And that's number 1. Tom Brady and Bruce Arians gets the top of the list for 2021 from Jeff Kerr over at CBS Sports.
And I'll say this, the reason I did it, 1 year, 1 championship. They are 1 for 1. I did not think Tom Brady and Bruce Arians were going to win the Super Bowl in year 1 together. I thought they'd go to the playoffs. I thought they'd be exciting the entire year, but man, those two were on another level in late November, really once the bye week hit in week 14. They came out of the bye week, and I know their schedule wasn't great. They played Atlanta twice. They played Detroit. But, man, they just rolled into the playoffs and beat Washington in a close game on the road, beat the New Orleans Saints, who, let's be fair, beat them twice in the regular season. I didn't think that was going to happen, but I thought, hey, you know what? After they won that game, I honestly thought they probably would win the Super Bowl, or at least get there. They beat Green Bay in Lambeau, and then they win the Super Bowl in dominating fashion. And look, Brady's had a career year with Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians unlocked so much out of Tom Brady, and I think Bucs fans really know that too and appreciate it. I think last year showed how good of a coach Bruce Arians actually was, and Tampa Bay is loaded. And we saw when you give a good quarterback like Tom Brady weapons, not what he had in New England, what they're capable of. And I got to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if they were number 1 after next year.
Yeah. Well, obviously, by the way, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick did not make your list the year before. So for Brady to go from off the list to back on at number one, that's something.
Well, they weren't even eligible. So because Brady was in Tampa. So and Belichick,
right. Because he was in his first year. Right. This was before the year last year. Right. By the way, last year. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, this year was the first year Bill Belichick was eligible for the list, and I'm like, man, I can't put him and Cam Newton on this.
No. By the way, last year Mahomes and Reed were 1. Drew Brees, who's no longer in the league, with Peyton were 2. Russell was 3. He moved down to 4 this year. Lamar Jackson, you had at 4 last year with Harbaugh. Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson entered the year at number 5 last year. Jimmy Garoppolo and Shanahan were number 6 last year. Deshaun Watson, Bill O'Brien. My gosh, think about where those two guys are now. They were number 7 on your list. Roethlisberger, Tomlin, Jared Goff, and Sean McVay were number 9. They are now split up. And Rodgers LaFleur went from 10 all the way into number 3. So that was last year's list. Check out the full list right now over at CBS Sports at Jeff Kerr, CBS. And he, of course, was kind enough to join us here on a Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash. All right, Jeff, we will catch up again on Friday. Great list, man. Good fodder.
Hey, thanks, Mike. You know what? It was funny. When I was doing that list from this year to last year, I'm like, I can't believe I had this many changes, and I think we might be in store for that next year. I should expect this by now.
Yeah, there's a lot of new quarterbacks, young quarterbacks in the league, and we'll see which of those enter the list based on what they do in 2021. Thanks, Jeff.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me on, Mike.